Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_daddy. Look, we made it to another week. We made it. And it just kind of occurred to me, time seems to be flying a little bit, and it's getting to the point where we've only got a couple more of these, man. There are only a handful more Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, whatever, where it's game day before, presumably, I mean, it's of course it's possible we win the Super Bowl, but more than likely there will be an end to this season that is painful and awful and devastating like it is for 31 other teams. Some of those ends are coming soon. And then is, aside from, some fun stuff like the draft, free agency, and things of that nature, we just don't get to do this again, So just a quick reminder that we're very fortunate that it is a Sunday, that we get to kick back in the cool air, the cool, cold fall air with the leaves on the ground, some meat on the grill, and, you get to listen to the Fox Sports music, get to see a kickoff. You get to see Jordan Love and the crew and all that. Just enjoy it a little bit. You know what I mean? That's number one. If nothing else, no matter what, the Packers are not going to or eliminated from the playoffs after this game, so you get to enjoy it. As an extra added bonus, the Packers are the better team in this matchup. It's at home. And hopefully it's a win and we get to celebrate for an entire week, which is also fun. Just occurred to me right as the intro was going. I was just kind of pondering that. It's almost like I'm feeling this thing come to an end. This thing that just got started. And it's like, it's going to be over soon. But before we delve into what we're doing today, why don't we look at the final Packers injury report? We didn't get to that yesterday. Questionable are Carl Brooks, Matthew Golden, and Josh Jacobs, Lucas Van Ness, Dontavian Wicks, and Savion Williams. Doubtful is Quay Walker, and out is Nate Hobbs. Again, with the Reed thing, not playing in this game, we'll put it 50-50 for Thanksgiving, but I think more than likely we're shooting for the Bears game after that on the 7th. With Quay Walker doubtful, obviously that means Isaiah McDuffie's going to see a larger role as that number 2 linebacker. But that also means probably going to see quite a bit more of Tyron Hopper. So we'll get a little bit of a better look at him. I'm kind of excited about that. Obviously, it's not enough to make any kind of full evaluation, but I just think he's done a good job and he's deserving of a shot and some more opportunities. Nate Hobbs being ruled out, I mean, I don't want to make light of any injuries. It's not a good thing, but I think most fans would be of the impression that the team is better when it's Valentine, Nixon, and Bullard. And I think I would agree with that. And if Hobbs is playing, I'm thinking they're going to make him potentially even the number 1 corner. In certain situations, like when it comes to Banks, look, we made the investment. We don't really have a lot of options, so I'm just going to say I hope that he plays and he continues to improve and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to Hobbs, I kind of like the situation we have absent him. And so, I mean, from a depth standpoint, it hurts if somebody goes down. But I do tend to like the situation a little better without him. I don't want Valentine on the sideline so that Hobbs can play. As for Josh Jacobs, there's a lot of question, I think, from a lot of people in terms of whether he should even play. I think there's some kind of silly conversation about whether or not he's the number 1 or number 2 running back. I don't really want to entertain that because it's not as interesting to me. However, I think the interesting discussion would be, do we need to rush Josh Jacobs back if considering the quality of play that we've been getting from our backup running backs? Of course, I'd always love to have Josh Jacobs out there, but when you look at risk versus reward, it kind of depends who's behind them and the potential to lose a game without them. And I just think that we've got some pretty high quality, at least one pretty high quality piece behind him. And I think the Packers have, whether true or not, there seems to be a pattern of guys coming back and seeming to not be ready to come back. And in general, they need to stop rushing people back and make sure that they're fully healthy. This is especially one of those situations, I think. That may sound stupid if we end up losing the game barely and the run game isn't really looking good or whatever, but you can't know those things ahead of time, and I think all things considered, if he's not 100%, he shouldn't be out there. The question seems to be a swelling issue. If they can get the swelling and stuff on his knee under control, then he should be good to go. That's probably part of the reason why he's been limited in practice these last several days, is less about the status of his injury and more about trying to maintain or load management kind of a thing when you're worried about swelling and trying to get ready for a game. So we'll see. If nothing else, he's probably going to be on a bit of a snap count. So Van Ness is kind of the biggest one. Well, I shouldn't say it's the biggest one because, Golden is a pretty big one too. But I really want to get Van Ness back. I mean, he looked like he was on track to have his big breakout year. He was looking fantastic. Micah Parsons just could not stop gushing over how impressive he was. We saw it all off season. We saw it start to translate in the regular season. And then he ends up getting hurt, which seems to be the MO. Every time it's like, oh, man, he's kind of breaking out. Boom, he's done, right? Jaden Reed, boom, he's done. Rashawn Gary, boom, he's done. Elton Jenkins finally becomes like, boom, he's hurt. Christian Watson, oh, man, he exploded, and he's hurt. I don't know what it's going to take for a guy to just explode and just stay on the freaking field, but whatever. But we've been kind of getting teased with the Van Ness thing a little bit. With his questionable status, he's obviously the closest he's been since he's been out. I have a feeling they're going to be extra cautious for Van Ness because we have Rashawn and Micah and Kingsley and guys that they really like. At the same time, I remember it wasn't that long ago that we rushed a quarterback back because it was a divisional game, even though it felt not super necessary, and we ended up losing the game anyways, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe, and I know Matt LaFleur is somewhat distanced from these decisions. I don't exactly know how much weight the team can put on the doctors, this, that, or the other, but it's possible they're looking at this going, screw that. This is the Minnesota Vikings. This is an NFC North game. If you can play, you're playing kind of a deal, in which case I would expect a lot of these guys to play. Matt LaFleur's only comment on it was that's the goal when asking if Van Ness is going to play this week. Again, we've just got a pile of receivers that are questionable, so it's always going to come down to which ones are going to play. It's Golden, Wicks, and Savion Williams. All three are listed as questionable. It's been just kind of it's not really a rotating door because it's kind of a lot of the same guys, but it's just been a pile of receivers that are hurt, and we'll see who ends up playing. We are coming in the right direction, but we'll see if we can go 3 for 3 this week or if it's 2 of 3 again. Either way, you're probably dealing with pitch counts again, specifically Savion. I mean, again, with him last week being in a boot, I just have to assume they're not going to put a heavy burden on him at least. And then we got a similar situation with the kicker, Brandon McManus. Again, we just don't know. He still has a quadricep injury. He's still listed as questionable. He played for a long time, then apparently had some kind of a setback. They said he's not going to play, and then the other guy came in, and he obviously had a rough day. And you look at McManus, yep, still hurt, still quadricep. No idea what's going to happen. But either way, it's not going to be good. It's been a rough situation. I don't really see that improving anytime necessarily soon. All right, I think that's pretty much it for any interesting news and notes. So what are we doing on time? Let's take an early break so I don't have to worry about that. When we come back, we'll do the playoff scenarios, percentages, and whatnot, which games matter and don't, and how much, and all that kind of stuff. Again, as we get closer to the end of the season, every week matters more and more and more. So we'll take a look at that, do a little bit of betting and whatnot, and we'll go from there. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, so first and foremost, as we look at the NFC North, the Lions are on top, not in terms of rankings. Again, I'm going to say this really slowly for any Bears fans that are listening. There's the rankings, then there's the quality of the team, and those aren't the same thing. Bears are number 1 in the rankings. They're number 3 in their odds to make the playoffs. And despite their very good record, they are barely, but they are sub 50% to make the playoffs, which I'm shocked, by the way, at that. That has to be an exceedingly rare thing for a team to be 7-3 and have a less than 50% chance to make the playoffs. In fact, if you look at the other 7-win teams, 49ers 86% to make the playoffs. Seahawks 92% to make the playoffs. Chargers 64%. Bills 84%. Bears 48%. Why? Remaining games and how good of a team are you really? That's the bottom line. And again, if you don't believe that, that's fine. Run to one of these betting sites and put $1,000 that the Bears will make the playoffs. Or 100 or 10 or 5. It doesn't matter. But if you're not willing to actually back it up, then you don't believe it either, and I don't want to hear it. Again, even I'm a little bit on the side of like, I would probably just off the top of my head put it above 50%. Just based on, I mean, they've got a massive head start, and all they need to do is improve a little, and get lucky a couple times, which, let's be honest, they've been getting lucky a lot. Lamar goes, actually, they already played Lamar and without Lamar and lost. Whatever one of the big quarterbacks they have goes out, boom, you got it. But that's the situation. The Lions are number 1 with an 81% chance to make the playoffs. The Packers are number 2 with a 76%, Bears 48%, and Vikings 2%. In the NFC North, the Eagles essentially have it locked up. They are sitting at a above 99% chance. I don't know if it ever, I'm guessing once it's officially locked, they will actually put it at 100%, I think. So I don't think it's official, but it's basically locked up. The rest of the NFC East is cooked. Commanders, Giants are less than 1%. Cowboys at just 10%, which is why the Eagles are at 99%. Buccaneers at 84%. Panthers 22%. Rams are also above 99%, but they do have a little bit of a dogfight on their hands. The Seahawks are at 92%. 49ers 86%. Looking specifically at the Green Bay Packers and what we can do, again, and this is prediction from the New York Times, The Athletic, based on running 100,000 simulations, based on all the stats and all the kind of stuff that has happened so far. 76% chance right now to make the playoffs. The bad news is that we can do more damage than we can do good. If the Packers beat the Vikings, The Athletic has us going up to 82%. That's not nothing, but it's 6%. If we lose to the Vikings, they drop us down to 58%. Still above 50%, meaning we're still likely to get there, but we are really knocking on the door of being in serious trouble. I mean, we're already knocking on the door of being in serious trouble if we lose this game. The other big games here, and again, all this stuff changes depending on what happens. So if we lose, then there's different things that you might be looking for where you're kind of trying to fend off the bottom from overtaking you. If you win, you're kind of looking to pull down the top a little bit to get you to climb up a little bit more. But without even looking at Packers-Vikings, just the other games as it stands, the biggest ones that we need to pay attention to, the Giants-Lions game. If the Lions win, it doesn't really hurt us all that much. It drops us from 76 to 75. It's expected. They're expected to win, all that stuff. If the Giants win, it does bump us up a little bit, up to 79%, without us ever taking a snap. Seahawks-Titans is another one. Really have no expectation there. But if the Titans win, it bumps us up 2%. Steelers-Bears is the biggest game. The Bears in general are like our game against the Bears is the biggest game. Bears games in general, these are the biggest factors in our getting into the playoffs or not. The Steelers beating the Bears bumps our percentages up 4% to 80%. Remember, if we win, it bumps us up to 82%. So the Steelers winning is nearly as beneficial to us as us winning. Now, us losing and the Bears winning, drastically more devastating. But we get bumped up 4% if the Steelers win. We go down 3% if the Bears win. So that is a 7% swing in our playoff odds in that game. Eagles, Cowboys, a little bit. If the Cowboys win, it bumps us up a percentage. I think the expectation is that we're not going to catch the Eagles, so it doesn't matter, but it does help a little. And then the other one is Panthers, 49ers. The Panthers winning could bump us up 2%. Now, I want to go through the specific scenarios of best case and worst case scenario, because again, things change if you win compared to if you lose. So let's start with best case scenario. The Packers win. We get bumped up to, are they going to give me 82? It says 81 now. They run the simulation, so sometimes it's a little bit different. So if the Packers win, that bumps us up to 81%. Keeping it somewhat realistic, we'll do if the Steelers win, it now has us at 86% to make the playoffs. So that alone is pretty massive. You're nearly 90% if you just get a Packers win and a Steelers win. Especially considering, again, there's not a lot that can do damage. If the Lions win, that's already baked into the pie. They're expected to win, so it's not really going to hurt us very much. In fact, let's just do that, okay? Lions win, Seahawks win. Actually has the Eagles winning helping us here, so I'm just going to do that because that's probably going to happen. Eagles win, Falcons and Buccaneers win, which hurts us. And in this case, 49ers winning doesn't really hurt us anymore, but let's just, whatever, it doesn't matter, so I'll just leave it. So basically, worst case scenario, and I'll just do Cowboys. Assuming Packers and Bears go the way we want, worst case scenario is like an 83% chance, and 2% of that is the Cowboys beating the Eagles, which again, I don't think is going to happen. If everything goes exactly the way we want it to, and again, it's kind of iffy based on all the stuff or whatever, about 90%. 90% to get in if everything goes our way. Now, on the negative side, we lose to the Vikings. Again, we're already at 59%. That's freaking devastating. If the Bears win, that's the next biggest one. That drops us down to 50. It's settling at 55. I saw it at 54%. So, not great. If the Lions win, that'll drop us down. That'll get us the rest of the way to 54%. Seahawks win. Let's go ahead and say Cardinals, Cowboys in this case would hurt us apparently. So I can get it down to exactly 50%. So the swing from best case to worst case scenario is 50 to 90%. It's a 40% swing. The majority of that obviously depends on us beating the Vikings, the second most being the Bears, and then some little tweaky stuff in between if things really go the wrong way. One other thing to keep in mind, though, is that not everything is the playoffs just generally. There's also a question of our odds to win the division. Right now, we're sitting at 39%. Best case scenario would be Packers win, Steelers win, Giants win. Unbelievably unlikely, but in that scenario, the Packers now are above 50% and are actually 61% to win the division. If we just do Packers and Bears going the way that we want, which is at least somewhat realistic with the Lions pummeling the Giants, we're at 45%, which isn't terrible. If everything goes exactly awful, Lions and Bears win and we lose, we're at 18% to win the division. Not entirely out of reach, but I mean, it's pretty much cooked at that point. So essentially, all we need to do is win, and we still have a 40% chance. If we win, Lions win, Bears win, we're at 40%. Those are still pretty good odds to win the division. Getting that number one seed, I mean, our odds are shockingly low. But if we really want to look at an underdog story here, what can we get up to? Right now, we're at 2%. If we lose to the Vikings, we're below 1%, meaning we're basically dead in the water. If everything goes exactly perfect, the best I can get it up to is about 6%. However, looking aside from this week, if we just leave out everybody else, if we win this week, we are still just sitting about 2%. But if we win next week against the Lions, we're up to 6%. Beat the Bears, we're up to about 8%. If you beat the Broncos, we're looking at 11%. You beat the Bears again, 19%. Let's see if we can get up to almost 50. We can almost go there. So if we beat the Ravens, then 31%. Beat the Vikings, we're at 47%. Meaning, without knowing how everything else is going to turn out, if I could guarantee the Packers win out from here on out, our odds are a little less than 50-50. That's how kind of dire the situation is. We would still need some help there. The fun thing about doing that, though, is now that I've done that, I can see, really zooms in on what the most important games are. So Cowboys-Eagles becomes insanely important. Our 47% goes up to 57% if the Cowboys win. Our 47% goes up to 62% if the Buccaneers beat the Rams. Again, this assumes we win out, but it also shows you like how incredibly important some of these games are. So the Buccaneers game becomes very important as far as making our odds of possibly winning not just the division but the NFC a lot better. So that's sort of the situation with where we're sitting right now. Obviously, the Lions matter, although they're probably going to win. The Seahawks game matters, although they're playing the Titans, so it probably doesn't matter. I don't have to tell you the Packers game matters. Steelers beating the Bears is very important. Eagles are important, but they're playing the freaking Cowboys. But down the stretch, some of these games that seem to not matter might start to matter a little bit. All right, let's take our final break. When we come back, we'll look at these games a little bit more in detail, give some details on my thoughts on what will end up happening in those games. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, let's go through some of these games. We'll start with the Jets-Ravens. A lot of these games are probably going to be blowouts. You got Patriots-Bengals is not an interesting one. Even Packers-Vikings. Obviously, some of these are going to go not that way, but you look at about 7-point difference or more. You got Seahawks, Titans, Detroit, and the Giants. Just a lot of bludgeonings going on this week, but opportunities for some good stuff here. I will. So I've got 3 different things going on here. We've got kind of the general consensus, what people are saying. We've got the man behind the curtain. And then I've got my own NFL score predictor, which I told you I was going to put a link to that, and I think I forgot maybe I didn't, but I think I did. I will try to remember to get that in my, added to my list of links and whatnot. As I said, the way that I calculate games, and this is going back several years, is basically how many points you score compared to the quality of the opponent you're going up against using DVOA. So it's DVOA and points per game, also DVOA and points allowed per game, that kind of stuff. I'd mentioned how great start to this, as I had almost nailed the exact score prediction for Bills-Texans. So, all right, Jets-Ravens. Ravens at -14, total at 44.5. I've already placed a handful of bets, and I don't exactly remember what they were, but I'll try to let you know if that's a situation. And this is one of them. So we don't have anything necessarily from the man behind the curtain. If we look at what a lot of the professional bettors are leaning toward, it seems as though they're leaning a little bit more on the Jets covering the 14 points. I tend to agree with that. Looking at the game, I've got the official score prediction sitting at 22-27. That is a much tighter matchup. I actually initially saw this at 13.5, and it was still a pretty good bet. It's now moved to 14 points for Baltimore. I've got it at 5.5. With that total also, it's probably worth betting the over in this game. Got the total at 49, is currently at 44.5. Couple of notes that were brought up here. The Jets are seen as a team that has had a little bit of a recent turnaround that maybe is being overlooked. They've covered in their last 3 games, averaging 27 points per game in that stretch, even with all the players that they lost. The Ravens' offense is also underperforming since Lamar Jackson's return, scoring over 28 points just one time in their last 7 weeks, including only 1 touchdown pass in Jackson's past 2 starts. And so it's not a matter of the Jets win, it's a matter of 14 points is a little crazy, all things considered. So that is one I do believe I bet on the Jets against the spread. I don't know about the total. Looking at Bears-Steelers, I should save the best for last, but I'm just going in order so I don't get confused here. Man behind the curtain left us some notes. He's got to bet the Steelers +3. It's moved to 2.5 where I'm looking. But man behind the curtain has been pretty bearish on the Bears. It's actually how I remember the difference between bullish and bearish is the Bulls are good and the Bears suck. But the bottom line is the Bears have been riding a luck train for a long time, and the expectation is that luck is going to run out. But he says the sharp money is on the Steelers and public is on the Bears. Power ratings show the value on the Steelers. Bears are incredibly lucky, whether it's turnovers or fourth quarter comebacks. Their metrics do not fit a 7-3 team, and they're due for some regression. Again, I'm all about that, and everybody knows that. That's why they're sub 50%, despite being number one in the NFC. Like, it's not a mystery. Bears have won 3 straight games by 5 points or less. The last 20 years, teams who won 3 in a row, all by 5 points or less, went 12, 23, and 1 against the spread in their next game. I'm hoping Rudolph starts. I like to bet on a team in the first game with their backup quarterback. This is still a bet if Rodgers starts. And that is another, obviously I would prefer Rodgers to play in this game, but there is a something to be said about whenever a backup comes in that first game. I don't know if it's just a lack of preparation or what, but it does seem to go pretty well for the team starting their backup. Maybe not weeks 2, 3, 4, but that first week for sure. He says, if the Steelers start Mason Rudolph, here are some results for Mike Tomlin having to play a backup quarterback. He's actually 19-14-1 straight up and against the spread with a backup quarterback since 2015 in that span. When Tomlin is an underdog with a backup quarterback, Pittsburgh is 8-8 straight up and 11-4-1 against the spread. It's always a little iffy in my mind. Maybe it shouldn't be, I don't know. But when the spread is very low and we're talking about against the spread, it's like, I mean, we're kind of just talking about a win at that point. As of this recording, I don't know the status. I was hoping we'd get a little bit of clarity, but it doesn't look like we have it. It's probably going to be somewhat of a game time decision, so we will have to see. That I do think probably works to the benefit of the Steelers, obviously, not giving the Bears any hints, so they have to prepare for 2 different quarterbacks. I'm guessing the plan in a situation like that is to just sort of, not that you don't prepare for a quarterback, but it's let's focus on what we need to do. Let's focus on sharpening up our skills and our tools and how we play. But anyways, aside from the man behind the curtain, some things that are brought up here as far as just scouring the internet for other professional bettors, there are actually a good amount of people who are leaning into the Chicago Bears. The biggest reason I think has to do with Chicago being at home, partially because of how the Bears perform at home, but mostly because the Steelers have been very bad on the road. Neil Parker over at Covers said the Bears' backfield is a key matchup mismatch. He has the Bears winning 27-23, which not only wins but covers. Sharp Football Analysis calls the Bears -2.5 the sharp play based on their 5-1 against the spread record at home. Pittsburgh struggles against winning teams. 1-3 straight up and against the spread versus teams over 500. They're kind of a fake over 500 team, but it still counts, I guess. There's a site called Cappers Picks AI. Their model has the Bears -2.5 as a strong lean, projecting the 24-21 Chicago Bears win with a 62% cover probability. There are other people like the Action Network that are on the Steelers. So it's certainly it's a tough call. And I think a lot of times when luck is a factor, it's tough. Because if you play the luck angle, you're heavy on the Steelers. If you just look at it for what it is, which is, the Bears defense is really good. The Bears are great at takeaways and all that kind of stuff. You're looking heavily at the Bears winning the game. As for my specific score prediction, unfortunately, I do have the Bears winning. Nothing really interesting here as far as a bet because I have the Bears winning 25-22. That's 3 points. And the actual official spread that I have is 2.8 points. So absolutely not worth betting. The total I have in that game is 47.2 points. They have it at 46.5. So it kind of feels good when my model lines up with what Vegas has because it's kind of validation. But at the same time, it's like, well, I can't do anything with that. So I guess on the positive side, everybody being split means it's probably pretty close. Bears have been winning a lot lately. It's not going to take that much for them to lose. It really just means the Steelers really just need to show up and be competent. The Bears have faced a massive amount of incompetence with bad errant throws, leaving guys wide open. I understand that's partially Ben Johnson as far as their offensive side of things, but if guys can just show up, not have a bunch of penalties, not turn the ball over every second, and just play competent football, they should beat the Bears. But the Bears just have not seen that in a very long time. And the question for me is always, I get the Bears are fake, but fake only matters when you go up against good, and I don't know if the Steelers are good, especially if I don't even know if Rodgers is playing or not, because I know Mason Rudolph is not good. So I've been staying away from the Bears a lot and not betting the Bears, and by the time it becomes a good bet, everybody's already going to be all over it. When the Bears play the Lions or whatever, nobody's betting the Bears to win that game. I don't care if it's in Chicago or not. So, next up, New England Patriots, Cincinnati Bengals. Nothing massive from the man behind the curtain, but he does have a note here that says, if Burrow plays, I would love to bet against them. However, Pats are at a sell point, and there are historical sell-high teams that say bet against the Pats. It's not like Burrow is going to play defense, though. Pats shaping up to be the biggest public side of the day. Patriots are another very lucky team. If you look at the luck metrics, I haven't looked at it obviously nearly as much as I have the Bears, but I've been seeing that quite a bit. That was one of the things that I had even mentioned in terms of, DVOA. Like, the Bears are the worst 7-3 team. The Patriots are one of the worst 9-2 teams or whatever they are. Looking at the pro better analysis, seem to be leaning again on the Patriots side. A lot of that is backed on Drake May, who's playing at a very high level right now, MVP caliber play. Patriots right now have a perfect 5-0 road record. Cincinnati Bengals defense is appalling. I mean, it is shocking how bad it is. And so you're looking at a high-scoring, explosive offense going up against a just putrid defense. They've allowed 40 points per game in their last 3 games. They're also 3-7 against the spread, 1-6 as underdogs. So it's rough. Also got Jamar Chase suspension, uncertainty around Joe Burrow. And so I, as far as my model is concerned, do agree. It's very close. The spread, at least it was at 8. Now I have it down to 7.5. I've got it at 9.3. So it got a little bit more favorable to bet this for me. The more interesting thing, though, is the total. The total here is 50 points, which is high. I have it at 67.5, 67.7 to be specific. I have the final score of the game, 29-39. And one of the interesting things about it, I want to add like a confidence thing in here because there's 2 different calculations for each team. The 2 different point score totals that I have for the Patriots are 37 and 40. The average is 38.5. So basically that's a high confidence thing. Both calculations have it around 40 points. The Bengals are very different. It's 36.8, so 37 points and 22 points. One is very high and one is very low. But even if you look at it on the low end, if the score is 37-21, that's 58 points. That's still 8 over the total that they have it set at. That's at the lowest predicted for both teams and rounding down. If you go to the high, it's 77. So even if you go with the worst case scenario based on this, I still think the over is a good bet in this game. Colts Chiefs, man behind the curtain has this as an under bet. Currently set at 50. He says not much in the market for this one. As I'm writing this, I'm seeing some sharp books drop to 49.5. That's what I currently have it at. He says 50 is a key number. Colts came back from an overseas game and then had a bye week. I think this is a letdown spot offensively and a bit of a momentum killer. The under is correlated with the Chiefs winning this game, and I do think they can cover the number. Mahomes is 14-4 to the under, and his 18 starts with a total of 50 or higher, dating back to 2022, going under the total by almost 5 points per game. Mahomes' last 6 starts with a total of 50-plus have gone under the total. When both teams are plus 500 straight up or better, the under is 23-12 in Mahomes' starts since 2022. Professional bettors over at places like Covers and Action Network are looking at Colts plus 3.5 as a sharp underdog play. They're seeing Kansas City's line as inflated given their 0-5 record in one possession games and Indy's rest advantage. Models project a close contest with 62% cover probability for the Colts. Odds makers are reporting an influx of anti-Chiefs money from pros, with early look-ahead bets on the Colts plus 4 causing the line to drop to minus 3.5. This one is very close to what I have it at. I have the final score of this game a little bit heavier in terms of the Kansas City Chiefs, but 29-23. Definitely not close enough to bet. The difference in the spread is just 2.7 points, depending on where you got it. If it's 3, then it jumps up to 3.2. And as for the total, I do have it a little above, but it's 51.8, so not really worth touching that one. That said, go Colts, because screw the Chiefs. I will skip the Vikings-Packers and hope like heck I don't forget to come back to it, because you got to save that for last. But Seahawks-Titans, Seahawks minus 13. Some handicappers like Sharp Football Analysis, 4 for 4, and Walter Football are back in the Seahawks covering the minus 13, citing the Seattle Seahawks' elite efficiency at 6.2 yards per play offensively, which is the 4th best, versus the Tennessee Titans' bottom-tier metrics of 4.2 yards per play, which is 31st. I tend to agree with that. I have the final score of the game with some rounding, 13-31. Again, the spread is at 13. I've got it at 18.5. So that would be a good spot to bet the Seahawks. As for the total, it's a little bit on the over. It's currently at 40.5. I have it 44.3. Moving on to Giants-Lions. Man behind the curtain says bet the Lions at minus 12.5. I've already got it at minus 13 here. He says, not really my style to bet a huge public favorite, but I'm going to ride with the public on this one. The trends and bounce back spot is too strong to ignore. I love betting against a team when the backup quarterback is making his second start and the team covered the spot in the first start. Jared Goff and Dan Campbell are 17-12-1 straight up, 22-8 against the spread off a straight-up loser as a duo, but they've won and covered 13 in a row dating back to November 1st of 2022. In Goff's career, he's 24-7 against the spread indoors off a straight-up loser and just 10-14-1 against the spread playing outdoors. This game is in Detroit. As a head coach, Dan Campbell is 25-14 against the spread off a loss. When he is minus 4 or higher, his teams are 8-0 against the spread in that spot. Jared Goff and the Lions have been double-digit favorites 4 times as a duo. They're 4-0 straight up and against the spread in those games, covering the spread by 18.5 points, which is hilarious because that's exactly the spread that I have for this game is 18.5. The pros over at Sharp Football Analysis, pregame.com, Sportsline, etc., heavily back the Lions to cover, highlighting Detroit's explosive offense, first in points per game, and the Giants having a terrible defense. Reports from pregame.com and Vegas Insider indicate sharp money as laying the lumber on the Lions early, pushing the line from minus 10 early to minus 12.5. It's currently at minus 13 here. Handle shows 68% of dollars on Detroit at BetMGM, despite public bettors closer to 50-50. As for my score prediction, I have it at 36-18, which is an 18.5 is the official number, point victory. As for the total, they have it set at 50.5. I have mine at 53.5, so not super worth betting. Both of these, by the way, are pretty high confidence. The Giants scores I have between 16.5 and 18.5. The Lions scores between 34 and 37.5. So not a ton of variability there, meaning that's, again, pretty high confidence that that's going to be the case. And as far as the spread, again, it is 5.5 points higher than what Vegas currently has it at. Browns-Raiders, nothing really from the man behind the curtain, but in his other random notes section, he says, Sanders starting for the Browns, rookie quarterback making his first road start is a bet against angle, but the line is too many points to lay with the Raiders and too much Shedeur hate out there. Pros over at places like Review Journal and Action Network lean toward the Browns at plus 3.5. That has already moved to 4. As a sharp fade on the Raiders, citing Sanders' inexperience in Cleveland's defensive edge, which is top 10 in pressure rate allowed. That is going to be tough for Shedeur. You know, you got Max Crosby and an offensive line that can't protect you. So I do understand the sort of general consensus, especially from a betting side, of trying to find where there's too much of something, and too much hate on Shedeur could be something to consider in terms of maybe people just are going to run to the Raiders. However, there's also going to be a situation of maybe this isn't, maybe it's warranted. Not even necessarily just the hate on his ability, but when you look at how unprepared he is to be an NFL quarterback behind a really bad offensive line with, I don't know how great the Raiders are, but I know Max Crosby is a terror. I don't know. As for my score prediction, I don't have one. Just realized that game isn't on here, so that's fine. I don't want to bet that anyways. That's a weird one. Jaguars-Cardinals, man behind the curtain has Cardinals +3. Playing the buy low, sell spot here. Public is on the Jaguars. Sharp money is on both sides. Third road game in 4 weeks for the Jaguars. Power ratings show value on the Cardinals. Jacksonville currently has 7 defensive starters on the injury report, all either DNPs or limited at practice. Since 1990, teams to blow a 14-point lead entering the fourth quarter and then win their next game outright, completing the bounce back, are 7-24 straight up and 9-20-2 against the spread in their next game. The last cover came in 2016, 0-7-1 against the spread since. That's pretty strong. Handicappers over at Sharp Football Analysis and BetMGM strongly favor the Jaguars to win and cover -2.5, citing Jacksonville's balanced attack, exploiting Arizona's 24th ranked run defense with 62-63% projected cover win rates. BetMGM reports line movement from -2.5 to -3, driven by pro money on Jacksonville, with 55% of handle on Jaguars despite even public splits. Sharp Football notes Jacksonville's 5-5 against the spread, but strong trends as short road favorites, 4-1 against the spread their last 5. As for what I have the score total at, it's basically a tie. If we round it, it's 25-25. There is a slight edge for the Arizona Cardinals, 25.1 to 24.7. But even that, if you look at the confidence, the lowest scores for each, 22.2 for the Cardinals, 23 for the Jaguars. The highest, 27.9 for the Cardinals, 26.4 for the Jaguars. So if you mix and match them, you could have 23-28 Cardinals. You could have 22-26 Jaguars. I certainly would not feel comfortable enough going in either direction. Again, I have it basically a tie. You could look at that and say that makes it a Cardinals bet, but again, the confidence is low enough that it doesn't make sense. As for the total, maybe you could lean over, but it's not super strong. They have the total at 47.5. I've got it at 49.7. So probably just stay all the way away from this. Although I will say that was pretty compelling on behalf of the man behind the curtain there with some of the research he did. And considering I'm kind of leaning Cardinals anyway, it does feel like a decent bet. Maybe I should just do it, man. I'll just do a very small bet for fun. Why not? Let's have some fun. Let's live it up. Let's bet Cardinals here. This is a man behind the curtain bet. Eagles, Cowboys, another one that I don't have a score prediction for. I'll have to figure out what's going wrong with that. It's kind of weird. Man behind the curtain also has nothing for us on this game. So I will say I'm a little surprised the Eagles are just 3-point favorites in this. I know the Eagles haven't been fantastic. I guess I haven't really been following the Cowboys since... I don't know, since a long time ago. But I would have thought even in Dallas, Philly would be much bigger favorites here. Pros at sites like FSIN and Winners and Winers favor the Cowboys +3.5. Wow, as a home underdog value play. Emphasis on Dallas's defensive upgrades, I guess, and potential for balanced offense to keep it close in a rival spot. That is always a thing with rivalry, but it's not. I mean, when I look at the rivalry thing, if the Eagles were 13-point favorites, I usually look at that and go, I feel uncomfortable with big spreads in weird games like that, but 3 points? Man, if the Eagles were that bad, I feel stupid as a Packer fan. Ay. Reports indicate sharp money on the Cowboys +4 early, holding the line from moving further. Handle shows pros fading the Eagles' public favoritism and contrarian value on Dallas in a divisional matchup. Cowboys' home explosiveness, averaging 28 points per game. That's another thing, too, and I would capture that in my model, but of course I don't freaking have that for some stupid reason. I do use home and away. It's hard to do that early in the season, so I don't, but later on you have a large enough sample size that it probably makes sense to start capturing the home and away splits. And so I figured that was probably a big part of it, and sure enough, averaging 28 points per game the last 5 home games, exploiting Eagles' road vulnerabilities, allowing 24 points per game on the road. Cowboys 6-4 against the spread at home versus NFC foes. Eagles 3-7 against the spread as road favorites. Sharps note Dallas's edge in forcing turnovers against Philly's occasional sloppiness. We'll see. It's an interesting one. I would assume, and I could be way off, I would have to assume the public money would be massive on Philadelphia. But again, could be way off on that. All right, Falcons and Saints. Man behind the curtain says pick the Saints money line at minus 135. That's basically exactly where I have it at 136. That feels petty. Saw some sharp money hit the Saints this morning when limits were raised. I think the Saints are still a little undervalued and give good effort considering the lack of talent on the roster. Saints are rested off their bye and 1-0 as favorites this season. Falcons have now played back-to-back games that went into overtime since division realignment in 2002. Teams to play back-to-back games in overtime are 13-19 straight up and 14-17-1 against the spread. Falcons are 1-5 straight up and 0-6 against the spread in Kirk's last 6 starts dating back to last season, and 8 starts against the Saints in Kirk's career. He is 4-4 straight up and 3-5 against the spread, and almost every one has been a battle. Since the start of 2020, Cousins is 0-4 against the spread versus New Orleans and 0-3 against the spread in the Superdome. Remember, if you're wondering why we're talking about Kirk Cousins, it was an injury, which it's not that, and I'm blanking, Penix, it's not that Penix was necessarily playing lights out because I was a little disappointed. I thought he would play better. But you got to remember, Kirk Cousins was also kind of playing like dog crap. So I don't know that this is going to be a massive, like, oh man, it's a big upgrade. I don't think so. Pros at the Action Network and covers lean toward the Saints covering the 1.5 to 2 point spread, viewing them as a sharp fade on the reeling Falcons in a divisional spot. Models project low Saints win probability, but value in the short favorite. Some of these terms, man, I'm learning hopefully as much as you guys are. I like this stuff, but it's in my world. You know what I mean? Action Network reports 69% of bets on Falcons, but only 31% of handle indicate sharp money heavily on the Saints. OddsShark shows spread movement from opening at minus 2.5 to minus 2 on the Saints side, with Pro Action resisting public Falcons lean. That makes sense. As for my prediction, another really tight game. I do have the Falcons winning, but it's 18.6 points to 17. So it's 1.5 points. So technically, that would make sense as far as I would, we're talking Falcons win, Saints cover with a 2-point spread. I mean, it's super narrow. But you could also understand where, if it opens at minus 4 or something, you're looking going, oh, Saints makes sense. At this point, makes no sense. With that ridiculously low score, I would also consider betting the under. Again, I don't remember if I already did. I probably already did, so I won't do it again. But the total is set at 40. I have it at 35.5. So that would be the more valuable bet. Even if you go on the high end of my estimates, it comes in just under. The high end for the point totals, I have Falcons 21.3, Saints 17.9. That's 39.2. And again, that's the high end. So it would make sense from my perspective to bet the under in this game, which means it would be a very, I don't want to say boring because some people enjoy it, but very low scoring game. Last one before the Packers, we got Rams and Buccaneers. The Rams are 7-point favorites with a total at 49.5. Nothing from the man behind the curtain. Switching over to the professional betting analysis. Pros at Sharp Football Analysis and Action Network lean toward the Bucs at plus 6.5 as value underdogs, citing Tampa's 5-1 against the spread record as 6.5 or heavier dogs since 2023, and Rams' potential for close games despite their hot streak. Models project the Bucs cover in 53% of simulations. It's obviously not very heavy. Handicappers at Sharp Football emphasize Bucs' air attack, exploiting the Rams' zone-heavy secondary with props like Emeka Egbuka over 69.5 receiving yards as a lock. Action Network fades Rams' run game versus Bucs' stout front. As for my thoughts on this, I have it very close to what Vegas has it at. They have it as 7 points. I have it at 7.3. Official score prediction, Rams 25.8. Buccaneers 18.5. Rams very low confidence in that score. Buccaneers much higher. I have it between 17 and 20 points. So right in that range, I don't have them scoring a lot of points. The Rams are all over the place. The low score calculation was 21.6. The high is 30. So either way, I have a Rams victory. If you go, Best case scenario for the Bucs, it's 19.9 to 21.6. On the other end of that, it's 30 to 17. But either way, potential to bet the under, and it's not a terrible bet because, again, even on the high end, you're talking like 49.9 points. They have it at 49.5. That's the high end. I have the total at 44.3. So again, kind of anticipating a little lower scoring game than what Vegas is, although I do have the spread almost identical. All right, let's do the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings. And this is a teaser of the week pick. He has teasing the Packers minus 0.5. The professional bettors from Predictum, Sports Illustrated, and Action Network lean toward Vikings plus 6.5 as a value play, viewing the spread as inflated for a tight divisional matchup. Models project a one-score game with the Vikings covering in over 50% of simulations. Predictum notes reverse line movement from -7 to -6.5 despite public money on the Packers, signaling sharp volume on Vikings. Action Network echoes this with pros fading the favorites in a rivalry spot, while some handle the BetMGM tilts toward Green Bay, but overall pro consensus on the dog. This kind of falls in line with the teaser of the week from the man behind the curtain. I like the Packers, but not where they are, kind of a thing, I guess. On the other hand, there's my prediction. Official score prediction. Packers 24.3, Vikings 16.5. That is a 7.8-point victory. That would actually be Green Bay Packers cover. That said, very, very low confidence on either side. The Vikings scores range from 20.5 to 12.5. Packers from 20 to 28.5. The good news is, even worst case scenario for the Packers, even though it's technically a loss, you're talking 20.5 for the Vikings and 20 for the Packers. So like 21-20. There's barely any overlap there. The other side of that spectrum being 29 to 12, basically. Got the total at about 41. They have it at 41.5, so I wouldn't really touch that. It's too close to bet on the Packers anyway, especially with the low confidence. So I wouldn't really want to touch this unless you wanted to bet the Packers, but you really wouldn't. So just leave it alone and hope that the model ends up coming in correct on this one. Either way, you got to remember, even if let's say I'm correct in this, we're talking about roughly a one-score game. That is the expectation, with some people saying, I think it'll be a little tighter because it's a divisional game, et cetera, et cetera. So we, first of all, have to stop doing this in general, but also do not come into this game saying, Vikings are trash, we should blow them out by 20 if we're a real team. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. The people that acknowledge the Packers are a significantly better team than the Vikings, they're acknowledging that, will tell you 7 points, a victory by 7 points is pushing it. They're not saying the Packers are such dog crap that I don't think that they can do it. And again, if you think I'm full of crap, fine. I have a very simple test for you. The Philadelphia Eagles, are they real? Is Dallas garbage? They're 3-point favorites. Go drop $100 that the Eagles win. I mean, you can even tease it up. How much do they win by? Tease it up to 7 or 10 or something, and say they'll cover that. You'll make a ton of money. It's football, man. It's not fantasy land. It's not fantasy football. It's away she goes. All right. We might as well talk about 49ers Panthers, but kind of not really. I'll just add it because it was also in the teaser of the week. Behind the man behind the curtain has 49ers tease it to -1. They're currently at -7. My score prediction is 49ers 25, Carolina Panthers 20. I'll technically make it a good bet on the Panthers to cover, although not by enough for it to be worth it. And I have the total at 44.7. They have it at 49.5. So again, the under might be worthwhile here. In fact, I think it is. But that's all I got for you, folks. It's game time. Lock in and have you a good day. Very hopeful that tomorrow is another Victory Monday. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
shadows rise, Vikings fall beneath cold sky. You feel it, the rage beneath the fray. Stop it, stop it. We bring you to your knees. Packers rage, Vikings bleed. In the cold we plant the seed. Love's blade cuts through the stone. Person's call as a beef can tear. Treated goes forever raw. Go back, go, go. Jefferson runs but shadows chase. Valentine's in his twisted face. McKinney waits like death's cold hand. Steals the soul from purple land. Gary crushes, breaks the line. 7 sacks, your QB's mine. Jones returns but can't escape the frozen hell that we create. You feel it and you feel it. The demons that we feel. Your broken bones will bleed. Packers rage, Vikings bleed. In the freeze we plant the seed. Watson's be like lightning strikes. Bullard hits like brutal spikes. Dean and goes forever raw. Go back, go. Four and six, your season dies. Lafleur's mind, O'Connell cries. Today, frozen ground. Today, your screams drowned. Today, blow bliss. The great dopes. Watson, strike, clack, Brooks, cross the line. And McCarthy breaks, and McCarthy falls, and Boofy, evil soul. Packers rage, Vikings bleed. Every step we twist the screen. Love unleashed the frozen king. Person's violence, hear him scream. Dean and gold, the only line. Dean and gold forever raw. Go back, go. Frozen hell, lamb